This segment is sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.
Her book is called Races, The Trials and Triumphs of Canada's Fastest Family. She's an activist, a speaker, a teacher, politician, and athlete hailing from Vancouver. She is also the granddaughter of Canada's first Black Olympian, John Army Howard. And of course, she is a champion in her own right. She became the Canadian senior women's champion in the sprints and long jump at the age of 15 in 1959, went on to represent Canada at the 1960 Rome Olympics, the Commonwealth Games, and the Pan American Games, where she won bronze medal in the 4x100 relay, competing alongside her brother, who you might recognize this name, Harry Jerome. We want to welcome Valerie Jerome to our city tonight.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I am thrilled. I could not put your book down. And as you know how fascinating, I was reading this book when I was visiting my mother, who competed at the same time as you and your brother, both of you famous in your own right, both of you Olympians. Tell us, I've heard the reviews of your book. It is so compelling. David Suzuki says every single Canadian needs to read this book, and I have to agree. Valerie, tell us about what it took to write such a compelling book.
Well, actually, I wrote it some years ago. I actually started interviewing Harry's friends, and I went to Ottawa, where he had worked at one time, and interviewed people there. So I did those interviews in '83 and '84. I wrote this manuscript in 1991. It has been a struggle, not so much to write it, because I felt it just poured out of me once I started writing. I wanted to expunge, myself of all of these, not all of them, but certainly many of the unhappy moments. So the struggle really has been to get a publisher.
Oh, I find that unbelievable.
Oh no, I spoke with many publishers. It was not until George Floyd was actually murdered on our television screens that Canadian publishing, which had published books by Black authors, but they mainly wrote about Haiti, Jamaica, West Africa, or the American Civil War, and all of that, slave trade. So they didn't really write about Canadians who were here for generations, Yeah.
And it is fascinating as we read your book, because it is true, most Canadians think we were not a part of the racism that was happening in the 50s and 60s, well, even in the 70s and continuing. You definitely dispel that myth in a very heart-wrenching way, but in a very just honest way about what your family went through. I've got here in front of you that I rated some of my mom's track and field books, and your name is all over here. You were an incredible athlete, and in the book you describe your trials of being a Black woman in athletics, even being a champion, as well as your famous brother, Harry Jerome.
But it's ironic that even though, actually I was the only Black woman running in Canada, Harry and I, when we went to our first national championships in 1959 and 60, we were basically the only Black people there. Very different from what start line looks like these days at the national championships.
Yeah.
But track and field did provide us with a fabulous home. Not just a physical home of the place at Brockton Oval in beautiful Stanley Park, but also a community, a family of like-minded friends. I remember your mother very well. She was in Vancouver Olympic Club. We were striders, but we all trained together in that glorious setting. And the running allowed us to be free and shed all the concerns of the day and just find that space that just existed nowhere else, neither at home, not at school, and certainly not in the larger community. So track and field was a gift.
It was a freedom for you, and it's interesting. I think a lot of Black families, at least, they found solace within their own family, and unfortunately you did not even have that. You went to foster homes. This book is, honestly, I could have you on the show for an hour and we could chit chat. It is well done. It's honest. It's searing, as they said. And I would recommend as well, everybody pick this book up because it does reveal Canada still has a long ways to go as well.
The trouble with, making changes in society, if people aren't aware of what's going on, how are they going to change it? How can they address it? And I think the number one goal of my writing this book is that I would like to shine a light on something that is not discussed at all in Canada. We think we are saints. We were the northern terminus of the Underground Railway. People were, they saw us, as somebody who received and welcomed slaves. And I do want to say there's a fabulous program available on television now called Black Life, and it is incredible, and it's in many segments, including, settlements, sports, but it's fabulous.
I think the more we know, and as hard as it is to process, the more likely we're going to change.
Yes.
And you're an activist already. You're out there speaking. You're glorious. You're an amazing woman. And I'm so grateful, and I'm sure the rest of Canada will be as well, that you have written this book for everyone. So thank you, Valerie. We have Valerie Jerome. I'm going to say she is the sister of Harry Jerome, which a lot of Vancouverites will certainly recognize that name. My family certainly does.
And a statue in Stanley Park.
The statue in Stanley Park. Yes.
It's a reminder to Canadians.
It's a beautiful reminder of your late brother. So thank you, Valerie. And I'm going to definitely encourage everybody. This book is fantastic, and we hope you write a second one. I know this is your first book.
Thank you.
This segment was sponsored by the Richmond Sentinel, providing news, entertainment, and human interest stories in print and online.